10 strategies for managing a long to-do list. So strategy number 1 is scheduling tasks. As you evaluate your to-do list, identify which tasks need to be completed at or by a certain time, and make sure you've clearly set aside that time for them, right? So anything that is scheduled when you're looking through that, that brain dump list, right? That you've captured all this information, anything that needs to be done at or by a certain time, you need to get that into your planner, right? You need to put it in a specific place. It's not necessarily more productive to schedule all of your tasks for specific time frames. So just know that. If you're someone who's like, well, I am going to organize my planner by scheduling everything into a certain time frame, that's not necessarily more productive. And in fact, I find that it can be a hindrance for some people, because if you have something unexpected, you end up having that domino effect of like, okay, well, I said I was going to do this at this time, but something else came up. So the next thing is going to be late, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And now all of a sudden I have all these things that I scheduled that actually aren't getting done today. So I say, stick to scheduling things that need to be done, like they're due by a certain time, or they need to be done at a certain time. So for any work that needs to be done at a specific time, I'm thinking like a meeting, or you've got like a due date, right, for something, right, that you have to work on. What is the prep work you need to do in order to be ready at that time, right? So when there's a due date, we want to make sure that whatever that project due date is, or that task due date, we're getting it done before. We're setting aside time before that time to finish it. And then if you have, let's say you're like hosting a meeting like for this, right? I hosted this class, right? It was getting done at a certain time, but I also had a lot of prep work I had to do for this, right? So that had to be scheduled into my planner as well ahead of time, so that by the time this started, I had all of the things ready to go, right? So also schedule that work in ahead of your tasks, into your scheduled tasks, right? All very important to put all of that in there. Strategy number 2 is to identify and block time for projects. So if you're working off a long to-do list, right? Let's say you did a whole brain dump of things, right? In phase 1, and now you're going to organize those things into strategic objectives. Look for the projects, right? If you're working off a long to-do list for the day, the week, the month, ultimately some of those tasks are going to belong to the same project, right? They all belong to the same thing. So identify what those are so that you're clear that this is one of the main objectives that you're working on. And you can also take a moment to ensure that you aren't missing any important tasks that go along with this project. So put it on a project plan, map them all together, review the tasks, make sure there's nothing else that you're missing, fill in the blanks, right? And then block off a specific time to work on that project and those tasks together. This is going to give you the ability to go deep on a project and do it well. So again, when it comes to time blocking, I use that idea of time blocking strategically for when I need to do deep work. That's when I will set aside the time. I will give myself enough time to work on those tasks, and I'll be able to kind of put blinders on and focus on that one project so that my quality of work increases, right? Because you want to get the thing done, and you want to get it done well, I'm sure. Strategy number 3, set your top 3. We've already talked about this, right? So when you are looking at what you have to do for the week, the day, the month, etc., and this is something you're going to do on a daily basis. I don't recommend doing this for a whole week or a month ahead of time, but set your daily top 3. Okay. This is a planning strategy I recommend to ensure that you're prioritizing your work and the key tasks. So ask yourself, which 3 tasks on your to-do list are the most important to complete today? These are things which, if they don't get done, they're going to cause an issue or delay in other things, right? So that very much tends to be a very good motivating factor. If I don't do this today, I'm really screwed. Like I've missed a deadline. It's going to cause me more problems tomorrow. I have to get it done today, right? Then clearly ID what those 3 priority tasks are and get them done as soon as possible in your day. Like I said, I start with my top 3 list. I start with that, right? And I have a couple of extra tasks on my to-do list, and then I'll pull some things, right? I might pull some things from that master weekly or monthly task list as necessary. Strategy 4 is to use the 80-20 rule. This is also known as the Pareto principle. The 80-20 rule is a task management principle that explains that only 20% of our tasks lead to 80% of the results we get. So this means that there are some tasks that we do each day that have a bigger or more significant impact than others. So if you want to save yourself time and energy and minimize the amount of things you need to work on, you should identify and complete those few tasks first before worrying about those 80% of tasks that have nominal effects on our results. So hopefully your top 3 list is comprised of these tasks, but any additional can be listed out on your daily to-do list to be completed as soon as possible as well. Now, a really good way to think about this, to quantify this in your mind, is let's say you've got a to-do list in front of you and it's got 20 things on it. 4 of the things on that to-do list are really freaking important. The other ones are less so, right? So take a look at your to-do list and ask yourself, what are the high impact? What is the thing that's really gonna, as they say in corporate speak, move the needle? Right? What are the things you really need to focus on? We want to do those first. Because like I say, if you have a long to-do list and you know not everything's getting done anyway, at least let those nominal tasks be the ones that you push off or don't get done in the day. Now, I never want you to actually plan like that, but prioritize the things that have the highest weight, the biggest weight. They're the most important. Most weight goes to these. They're really going to be the things that have an impact on your life. 80-20 rule, wonderful thing. Strategy number 5, batch your tasks. So some tasks on your list are going to very likely be similar to each other. And to optimize your workflow, it would be a good idea to batch these tasks, which means you work on them together at the same time so that you're doing the same general activity over and over and over again. So you're not switching between activities. You're focused on the same thing over and over and over. It optimizes in your brain their time management, so you don't have to switch between activities. So an example of this, like for me, would be like creating posts for social media, or maybe for you, it could be like running reports or, making return phone calls to people, right? Things that are the same thing that you're basically doing. You're just going to sit there and do one after another, or you can organize the things so that you're doing all of step 1 for the task together, and then you do all of step 2 for all of those items together, and then you do all of step 3 for the items together, right? That is batching your work. So when you batch your tasks, you ask yourself if there are any other similar tasks you can add to this process. This is what I like to do. When I'm sitting down to batch, I will look at my to-do list, I will see what needs to be done that's similar so I can do them together, and then I will look at my greater to-do list and say, are there any other things from like my master monthly to-do list that I could just pull in and do here too to save myself time, right? Even if it's not something that belongs to the current day or the current week, if you're already kind of getting started doing something and it's possible for you to do it right now, you can pull some things from other places as well. So like for me, it could be like batching social media posts for like the month, right? I usually don't do that many at a time, but at least batching all of them for the week and maybe pulling in some more from the next week, setting aside that time to do them all, that ultimately saves you time. So batching your tasks, doing like things together. Either you do them one after another, or you organize them into everybody's step 1 for all of them gets done, then step 2, then step 3, then step 4, and then at the end, you've completed a whole bunch of things in much less time. Okay, that is strategy 5. Strategy 6, the 3 Ds, delegate, defer, and delete. I love this one. This is my favorite. Amazing one for getting tasks off your to-do list. Remember that you are not responsible for doing all of the work on your to-do list, okay? You're not the only one who's responsible for at least all of it, right? So which tasks can you delegate to someone else? And I will tell you this right now, women who, if you guys are watching and there are any of you who think I'm the one who needs to be doing all of the housework and all of the cooking and all of the cleaning, and you have a partner, if no one's told you this before, I want you to know that your partner is very capable, most likely, of doing some of these things to take the tasks off of your to-do list, right? So unless you're like seriously a homemaker and that's all you do and you have plenty of time to do all this stuff, enlist the help of other people in your family, a partner, your children, and remember, even your friends for some things, because remember, you most likely really enjoy helping other people. So when somebody else asks you for a favor, I would bet that more of you than not are more than happy to help a loved one, right? More than happy to help a coworker, right? Maybe not all of your coworkers, but you're always more than willing to help others. Well, guess what? Let other people return the favor, right? Give other people responsibility because you don't have to be doing everything. Like, you don't have to be doing everything yourself. So which can you delegate to someone else to do? Or what's work that you can defer for another time that actually might be more optimal for working on the task, right? And I know for this one, it's easy to think, oh, defer, like push things off to another day, to another day. No, I'm saying like, think about when the best time to work on something would be. Like, it might be a different month from now. It might be a different part of the year, right? Do you really need to be focused on this thing right now, right? And if the answer is no, if there's maybe a better time to do it, then go ahead and move it somewhere else. These are usually things that don't have to do, the completion of that work is not going to inhibit something else from being done either, right? So if there's a better time, move it to a better time so it's not on your immediate to-do list, because we want your immediate to-do list to be the priorities that have to get done. Which tasks can you simply delete off of your list because they aren't a result driver, right? We learned from the 80-20 rule that there's a lot of stuff we're doing that doesn't have the same weight. It doesn't have the same effects. And when I think about it, I think about like baking a cake, right? Or making cupcakes. I used that example once for the 80-20 rule in a video a long time ago. But think about making a cake, right? You're making a cake, and what are the most impactful parts of that cake? Actually having the cake made and maybe putting on some frosting, right? So then all the little candies and things and all of the swirly things that you might be doing, or the little rosettes and things like that, they're pretty, right? And they're definitely icing on top of the cake, but they're not as important as the main meat of that project, of that work, is getting the cake made, baking the cake, icing the cake, making it look like a cake. Because once you have cake, layers of cake, whatever, one layer, two, whatever you're doing, and then you've got the icing on it, guess what? You've got a cake. That's a cake, right? It doesn't matter if it doesn't have all the sprinkly things on it. It doesn't mean if it's still a cake, even if it doesn't have rosettes. It's still a cake, even if it doesn't have writing on it, right? So I'm not saying that you don't always want to, make a cake as amazing as you want to make a cake, but think about that there are always things in life on your task list that are just these extra things that it would be nice, but it's not going to really change anything for my life. You know what I mean? Like, think about if it's going to really drive a result, if it's really going to make things easier, if it's really going to solve something for you. If it's just another thing to do, then you maybe don't need to do it, right? So that's strategy 6. Number 7 is to manage your habits. So some of the tasks on your list may actually be habits that you are currently working on or focused on. So don't simply leave them on your to-do list. Like, I don't just put like a habit that I'm working on a to-do list to be done whenever. I pause and figure out where on my productive daily routine that habit makes the best sense to be accomplished. And I recently did a whole video on how to create your productive daily routine. So if you need more details on that, definitely see that video. But when a habit sits on your to-do list, it just becomes another like task that is just sitting there and taking up space. But when you actually assign it to a place in your day, like, okay, I'm going to do this task after dinner. It doesn't have to be assigned to a time. You're saying after dinner, I'm going to do this task, right? Then you know the best place for it to go, where it's naturally going to flow through your day. And it's not just a thing for you to check off at any time, right? And by putting it into your routine very intentionally, you're going to find that it starts to feel more natural, as opposed to it just being a thing you're checking off, right? You check off tasks. Habits you incorporate into your routine, right? So that's the difference. Okay. So strategy number 8 is a mindset check. Maybe you didn't see this one coming. Our mindset is a major factor in determining how much work we're able to act on each day and how productive our day ends up becoming, right? So ask yourself, which tasks on your list would you feel like so amazing and so good and so relieved once they're completed, right? These are tasks that may be things that you should be considering prioritizing, because often those difficult or scary things, right? Once we get them done, we feel amazing. It gives us such mental relief, and roadblocks to actually getting things done kind of disappear. Have you ever like made a to-do list, and on your to-do list was something scary that you were like worried about, and then you're like, you know what, I'm just going to avoid the to-do list entirely. You know, let's just watch Netflix today. Let's do something else. I'm going to go clean the house. I'm going to go do something completely off what's on my to-do list, because I'm avoiding that thing that's scaring me, right? Because it's on the to-do list, and everybody else on that to-do list is associated with scary thing now, right? We don't want to do that, right? We want to just get them done. Like I said, the best way to get something off of your to-do list is just to do it, right? Get it done, do it. I promise you, it most likely, that scary thing, I've done this so many times in my life, the scary thing that I've been putting off that I'm worried about took me all of 2 minutes to do. And I'm not promising you that all yours are going to be 2 minutes, but you know what I mean. Sometimes getting it done, like you're more afraid of it in your mind than it actually is. It's harder in your mind than it actually just is to do it and get it done. But then once you get it done, what ends up happening? You feel like $1,000,000. You feel like you could take the rest of the week off because you just accomplished, a monster of a task, right? That's how you feel. And having that feeling by getting those things done as soon as possible is really going to help boost your productivity, boost your mood, boost your happiness. All of those wonderful things. It's going to help you to feel unstoppable. And that's how I want you to feel when you're looking at your planner. I want you to feel unstoppable. Next, we're going to do an energy audit. That's strategy number 9. So your personal energy level is going to be a major factor in how much work you can accomplish in a day. So check in with your energy level, right? To understand which tasks you reasonably expect to complete today. Also, consider what time of day your energy is the highest and what time of day it's generally the lowest, because all of our energy ebbs and flows, right? So it would be a good idea for you to schedule more energy intense activities during those peak energy times, and then allow yourself to work on lower intensity work during times when your energy will be waning, right? So like I always when you're scheduling things to do for the day, I would never schedule a meeting at I think it's so funny because people do this, 3 or 4 o'clock where everyone's exhausted. No, schedule the meetings in the morning, right? When people are at their best, right? Don't put hard things on your to-do list. Don't put them off for later, because later you're going to be tired, right? We don't want to have that situation where we're exhausted and we're tired and then we have to do this thing and it just seems worse because we're tired than maybe if we had just done it in the morning, right? Think about where you're putting things in your day based on your energy levels that you generally have for a day and based on where you ebb and flow, where you have those peaks, where you have the valleys. Give yourself easy things to do during the valleys. You know what I mean? That's what I do in order to get little menial tasks done. I make myself do them when I'm low energy because they're not so impactful. And strategy number 10, create your workflow. Okay, so once you've organized and evaluated this list according to all the previous 9 strategies, I want you to look at this list and decide the most logical order for you to use to work on the list, right? What your final things are for you to do. What's the logical order? So this may mean that everything doesn't get done today, right? And you may be intentionally moving tasks to the next day or even another week. But all of this is part of creating a good plan that sets reasonable expectations and avoids creating overwhelm. So this is something I tell people when they're making a project plan, right? You've brain dumped all the things that you need to do for the project plan. You've checked through the project plan to make sure you have captured all the tasks. What's the logical order that you're going to put them in, right? The ones that are remaining after you've checked off the 80-20 rule and you know that there's certain things, I don't have to do this. I'll save that for another time, or a future wish list for updating this project or whatnot. Once you get to knowing what your final task list is, what's the best order? What makes the most sense based on your energy, based on the time, based on what's scheduled, based on what work is on your plate? Just give yourself a few minutes to say, this would make the most sense for me to work on it this way. And I don't really like when people do this for future days, right? I think you should do it on the day of, because things can change overnight, right? Things can change if you start trying to lay out your perfect day of all these tasks ahead of time. You may wake up in the morning and find out, oh, I don't even need to do this. I don't want to do this. Oh, wait, that thing I didn't think I needed to do. Actually, I think I do need to do it. I'm putting it over here. So try to do that in the morning. This is part of that 15 minutes you're going to take. Identify your top 3, pull extra tasks off your to-do list, put them in a logical order, create a workflow, right? What makes sense for you to do so that the day is flowing and doesn't feel like your day is choppy, or that you're going from something very difficult to something very easy, or you've put way too many hard things on that day. Think about the best way to get things done, the logical order. That is strategy, right? That's you being strategic about how you're getting things done so everything flows well. So putting it all together, how to use these strategies. So when it comes to creating a to-do list, I prefer to create lists for the month And then I choose items from that list to apply to my week. This prevents me from keeping too long of a to-do list, and it helps me to drill down to the context of my current month's priorities. Once you have your monthly to-do list, I recommend using those 10 strategies to filter the tasks that you need to do for the current week and identify the tasks that you need to do each day. And those 10 strategies, I said, some of those strategies are great for organizing in phase 2 as well, so that you're not even putting things on your to-do list, right? Because you've already 80-20'd and you know that there are certain things that you can just take off, or you've already delegated, deleted, and deferred some things, so they don't even get put in your planner, right? That is to that final part of your planner, right? Doesn't even get allocated or scheduled, right? So by the time I get something that goes into my actual calendar, right, that goes in for my week or my month, I know that that thing is a very important thing that has a lot of weight, that's going to move the needle, that is important for me to do. So if planning ahead for the work week works for you, great. But if you find that you set your task list for the day and then things don't get done and they need to be transferred to the next day, this becomes a problem if you have pre-planned your entire week. So I don't recommend pre-planning your entire week. Like I said, I don't think you should create your entire daily workflow ahead of time. I really don't think that pre-planning your week is necessary unless you're someone who already does it and really loves it and you stick to it. But if you're someone who plans your top 3 for the full week and it's not getting done, right? Like those things don't get done because other things happen or things change, right? Don't do it. Take it one day at a time. This is why we have those specific planning routines for the year, for the quarter, for the month, for the week, for the day. Let things happen in the time that they're set to be planned for, right? So that you don't miss things, that you don't overwhelm your schedule, so that you're able to create a sense of peace and balance with your planning. So unless things are scheduled for a specific time or a day on purpose, you don't need to fill in every day, right? So the only time I will plan ahead, I will put something in, schedule something in ahead, is because I know I have an appointment at this time, right? Or I know something's due at this time and I know that that means that I have to get things done ahead of time, right? So like for this class, like I said, this was something that I'm doing the class live at a certain time, but on Thursday, let me just look at my planner. Well, actually, let's see, when did I do that? Last week. Last week, I created like an outline for things. I had scheduled out reminders that needed to go out. I worked on my slides Thursday and Friday, and the download that we did, right, on Friday. There were certain work that I allocated out because I knew that things needed to be done by a certain day and a certain time, right? So that is how we use these strategies. That is how we make sure that we're balancing things and not overwhelming our schedules, making sure we're keeping things that are priorities on top of our list, letting things that have a lesser weight, let them fall off of your list. And I promise, stick to that. You're going to see that you're planning better and that you're starting to trust yourself with your planning as well. So using these recommendations, you're going to start to see that you begin to plan more strategically and intentionally and stop taking on too many tasks that aren't necessary. The hard truth for most of us is that we put too many tasks on our list and then we fail to prioritize them, so that we are always expecting not to get everything done. And then we continue to push off tasks day after day and we accept that, right? We know I can't get it all done, so we just accept that things are falling off the to-do list. But you can teach yourself to recognize priority tasks. You can learn to block off time to do deep work, and you can practice batching tasks and checking in with your mindset and energy to determine what is reasonable for you. So give these strategies a try. Understand that there's a learning curve with this, but the more you execute on the strategies, the more you will integrate and utilize this. Don't forget the strategy cheat sheet that I made for you, right? So that you can take what you learned today with you. Of course, I do recommend you make notes, but I have put some important things that I think will be nice things to remember. I've put them on a cheat sheet. So make sure to download the printable. It's a half-page strategy cheat sheet. Actually, let me show you guys it in my planner because I printed mine out, of course. Here's mine in my planner. So cute. It's a nice little planner printable. These are the sort of like deco sort of things that I love in a planner, right? That help remind you to be productive and also look cute. So the front of this cheat sheet has the 10 strategies to manage a long to-do list, just as reference for you. And we're of course going to talk about them in today's class. And the back are some affirmations for productivity. If you go ahead, there is a link down below that says you can get the cheat sheet. You sign up for that, you'll be sent to a page where you'll be able to grab that link and you will have your cheat sheet for today's class as well. So what do you think? There was a lot of strategy and I can't wait for you to put this into practice in your own life. How are you guys feeling? What are you guys thinking of? Let me know in the comments.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you'd like more information on planning, definitely pick up your copy of my book, The Functional Planning Handbook, available on Amazon now.